I'm going to start with sharing how my morning has unraveled. So I woke up this morning, as I do every single morning, and I do my very best to focus on being in my body and not rushing my process to get out of bed, but really taking care of myself. And part of taking care of myself are the rituals that nourish me, right? I think a lot of the time when we get into the process of self-care, we think of it as like a regimented list of to-dos. But for me, I think of it as a holistic practice of like, what does my body require? So generally it's I feed my dog, I brush my teeth, I wash my face, I eat breakfast. But today I was like, I don't want to cook eggs. I've had eggs every morning. I don't want to cook eggs. So I'm going to go to the bakery and I'm actually going to have one of their baked goods. So I got Roxy on her leash and we started walking. And one of the things I've been sitting with is the next round of Supple begins in March. And I was like, I really haven't been transmitting much from the frequency because I haven't really been in it. You know, I've been moving through my own stuff with parasites and all these things. And I was like, okay, well, what if today I just took a couple moments and dropped in just for me? What would happen? I was walking and it was really awesome. Like Roxy was behaving and we were going to the bakery. She was excited to walk to the bakery. There was no her tugging me to go into other directions. I tie her up and I walk in and I almost get like shock because the baker, who I see almost every day, is looking directly at me and his eyes pierced mine. And it took a moment for me to calibrate and really receive his attention. But the moment that I did, the moment that I just breathed in his smile, he smiled even bigger and said, good morning. And so it brought me back into like, right, I'm really here to be in my body and to experience the world around me. And I could see it visibly how nourishing it was for him as much as it was for me. And so I went and ordered my latte and I was sitting by the counter where you like add sugar or whatever, just waiting for them to finish. And I was reflecting on this. And I was like, wow, like I really sat with my heart is open, right? I'm working on keeping my heart open at all times, being ruthlessly open with my heart. And the world is responding to me, but I'm not always receptive to it, right? I'm not always receptive to the way the world wants to react to an open-hearted woman. And so this morning I actually had to calibrate to it. And I was like, oh shit, okay, I'm receiving something, receiving attention. I'm receiving some kind of nutrient. And once I let it in, it was mutually nourishing. I could see it. I could visibly see it. And I could feel it, how he was gaining more with my reception, right? And so in the process, I'm sitting there, like imagine I'm a wallflower right by the coffee station. And I'm really just in myself reflecting on that, like, wow, what a potent way to start the morning. When I suddenly look just across the room at another customer and suddenly I realize his eyes are locked in with mine too. And I was like, okay. But this time I was already open. I was already receptive to everything. There wasn't a pause where I had to calibrate. It was, I'm already open. I'm already receptive. And so he came towards me because I'm like by the register and he leans in and he says, good morning. And that's all it had to be, right? It didn't have to be much more than that. And I smiled, he smiled, and it was just this really beautiful momentary exchange. He leaves the bakery and I'm like, wow, like back-to-back experiences of just receiving what the world wants to give me when I'm totally open to having it. In the midst of all of this, there was another woman who was in the lineup to order her coffee. And I could feel her contraction. I could feel how closed off she was to just receiving pleasant experiences. Because I even asked her, I was like, hey, are you ordering? And she's like, I'm done. Like totally closed off, totally depleted. And it's actually quite extractive on an open system. And I was like, okay, if you want to be miserable, that is your right. You get the right to be miserable as you want. But I'm not going to engage with that. And so I went amongst my way and I allowed myself to continuously be nourished by the previous two exchanges I had with those men, that where me receiving them was a nourishment for me and them receiving them was a nourishment for them, right? Are you following along what I'm saying? Because reception, when we don't allow ourselves to have it all the way, we're actually starving the people around us, right? Like if someone gives you a gift and you don't fully receive it, you are actually starving them from your reception. That is in itself a nourishing experience, right? When you feel fully received by someone, it feels good to you, but to receive someone fully is also nourishing, right? It's mutually beneficial. And this is what I love about flirting, right? Flirting is a mutually beneficial, energetic exchange. If we really just track it, the first guy was like, oh shit, right, I got to receive this man. The second guy is like, I'm just receiving as life happens. I'm quicker to do it. I'm quicker to receive. At the end of my morning coffee ritual at the bakery, I was walking Roxy home and I noticed this guy who was walking across the street, very much my type. and we locked eyes for a moment. It wasn't anything profound. It wasn't anything intense, but it was enough of an energetic exchange that I could feel filled up. Moments. I'm talking split seconds when suddenly I decide that I'm going to turn around, which I never do. I never turn my head to go look at someone. And I did. And I recognized that he was looking at me. We did the same thing at the same moment. And then the sensation got too hot for me and I turned away, right? It was too intense. And he did it about the same time. And what this really showed me was, I think one of the things that happens when we're in the process of opening our hearts, opening our essence, opening our being, really what we're doing is we're opening to the truer experience that life has for us, not the experience that we get as a repercussion of having our walls up. But when we have our walls totally down and we don't have the need to be guarded because there's nothing that life has to is bringing us that we need to guard ourselves against, we actually get to see and feel and be with the truth of the moment, right? There are plenty of other women in this world who would say that it is dangerous to receive a man's smile. Plenty of women who will believe that. And I don't buy into that because I think one of the most dangerous things we could do is not receive pure energy when it is available. And instead, we just shut it down, right? Like that woman that I was at the bakery with, she just shut it down. Like I was just another woman. There's nothing dangerous about me, but she's closed off. When you are open, your opening is terrifying to most people because you are open and you are surrendered and you're receptive. But those who actually want to engage with you, that can handle your brilliance, absolutely will. Right? So the man at the bakery who sees me every day, he can handle my brilliance because he can handle me when I'm fully open and receptive. I just needed to be there. The moment that I was, his smile got brighter. Me sitting there, open, surrendered, receptive, allowed that man to engage with me in a way that was just resonant and true. Me being open, receptive, surrendered, allowed this random dude on the street to engage with me for just split moments in a way that was super nutritive to both parties. The process of opening isn't a one and done. There isn't, I open, I'm done. Oh, I'm receptive. It doesn't work that way because our bodies don't work that way. Our bodies can only handle so much energy. And so when our life is chaotic, it can feel like too much to surrender and be receptive because I already have to receive all this drama. I already have to receive all this pain. I have to receive all of this hard work and effortful life. That surrendering to being open to something being differently feels way too sensational. And so people would rather close off to that and say, no, I'm going to focus on my career. I'm going to focus on my business. I'm not going to focus on receiving life in its fullness because it's too much sensation. See, when we calibrate being open, it is going to be sensational. It's going to feel like you're choking on truth. It's going to feel like your blood is boiling because the version of you that gets to have the life that isn't full of effort and hardness and rigidity and stiffness, that version of you has never existed before. You've never been open enough to be that version of you. And so all of that discomfort in your body is required to release whatever patterns keep you shutting down from life. Staying open is a pose. You are going to shake. You are going to feel uncomfortable because these muscles have not been flexed. And even when they do flex over time, right? We see people who practice this work for years and years and years. Even when you do flex it all the time, you're still going to shake and you're still going to feel stiff in different places because you're also moving through life in different levels. Part of the reason why I've been really resistant to publicly sharing more about Supple is because I'm constantly being worked by it. Am I being soft enough with myself in the process of becoming the truer version of me? Or am I punishing myself? Am I getting hard on myself? Am I no longer taking care of myself? Am I abandoning who I am? Am I making sure I'm nourished and fed and rested? Because I need all the possible energy I can to handle the moments where I'm deeply vulnerable with someone in a way I've never been vulnerable before. Am I well taken care of as a physical being? That when I have to say the truth, that I don't crumble on the back end of it, that I don't collapse on the back end of really revealing myself to someone. You think that this is, I'm open in the world can feel my heart. No, it's more so, I open, the wind is blowing within my rib cage on raw flesh. And instead of getting tight, I'm being invited to soften more, even when it is so sensational. And this isn't about tolerance, right? How much pain can I tolerate? This isn't what this is. It's how much can I surrender, trusting this process. Let me tell you something. In October, This past cycle of Supple was really opening to friendships, like really deep, intimate friendships. And in October, I hit this spot in my life. Like I hit it where I Marco Polo with a dozen girlfriends or so pretty often. And I got to this spot where I realized that there was a layer of vulnerability that I never actually brought to our relationship. There was a layer of vulnerability that I was never fully transparent with, when suddenly I just decided to drop my game. And I was on Marco Polo with a girlfriend, and I just remember feeling layers of my skin like peeling off my body as I was revealing myself to her on video call, and feeling terrified, and terror that didn't quite make logical sense, right? I knew this woman loved me regardless, but it was like, oh my God, if I say this, what'll happen? I don't know. I don't know how she'll react. I don't know how my life will change. I don't know what's going to be possible if I just stay with this thread, but not staying with it. Not revealing myself hurts too much too. So it's like choosing between pains, the pain that honors the revealing of who you are, or the pain that has you close off to yourself. To be of service to the opening means that I'm going to choose the deeply sensational experience of revealing the essence of who I am, the truth of who I am, way before I ever choose closing off to it. And in a matter of 24 hours, I started just saying the truth to I think it was like 3 different people. And I remember feeling like I was about to die. Because we talk about speaking the truth freely, like speaking the truth is, you just need to be honest. And it's like your body is so highly protected. It has legitimate fear around speaking the truth. And that doesn't mean we don't speak it. But if we're going to be supple with ourselves, it means that understanding our bodies are having its own reaction. It is having to deal with the different levels of energy that we've never dealt with before. And so we do have to calibrate to it. We have to recognize that we are hitting our edge and that we need to go slower, that we need to be more embodied so that we don't get knocked out by all of the sensation that we feel. Because here's the thing is we can't grip onto it, right? The moments that you tell the truth and your heart is beating really fast and your palms are sweaty and you're losing your breath and your mouth is dry and you're just all chaos, in those moments, you don't grip down. That's the last thing you want to do. You soften, you slow down, and you take it moment to moment. What do I require to stay open here? I need to take a breath, and I need to drop in a little deeper. And I need to be aware that my heart is terrifyingly beating right now. And I'm still going to choose it. Still going to choose to stay open here, because if I close off, it means that I close off to what life actually wants to give me on the other side of this portal. See, back in October, in the midst of me telling my friends deeper truths and revealing myself at layers I had never done before, I actually got to the layer of intimacy in those friendships I had been craving, that I had been yearning for. It wasn't until I was willing to participate with that deeper desire and actually surrender to it and open to it and tend to it and be with myself in the process of feeling scared in the middle of the having of it, that when I could turn around and say, wow, I actually have an intimate friendship now that I didn't have before. But also in the midst of that, there was a man who entered my life and I said something entirely truthful to him, and it scared me because I realized that is what I want. I want that layer of intimacy where I trust that the truth will do the work for me, that being completely honest about who I am, what is real, what is required is going to do the work. I don't have to effort here. I don't have to bite my tongue. I don't have to grin and bear it. I don't got to do anything extra. I just have to be with the truth. This man exited my life and I'm internally grateful, because imagine he didn't. Imagine he stayed because I lied, or imagine he stayed because I was dishonest. How much pain that would actually cause, because I had to close off some part of myself. So over the last 6 months, I have cultivated way deeper friendships than I've had in years with even the same people. But I've also cultivated brand new friendships that I hadn't had previously in ways that don't make sense to the ordinary world. I went and hung out with a girl that I now consider a close girlfriend. And our first hangout, it was like just us going back and forth with being really radically honest with one another and realizing that we actually give a shit about what the other person has to say. It didn't mean it wasn't scary. It didn't mean that it wasn't uncomfortable and awkward and weird. It meant that I was still calibrating, fully revealing myself. I was still calibrating to letting go of the egoic patterns and stripping away of the behaviors that keep me closed off from the layer of intimacy with myself, let alone the layer of intimacy possible when I give that to somebody else. See, when you open, it isn't a static state. You don't just open and you're done. It is open, 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 open. You stay open to the world because you don't actually know what wants to come in yet. I didn't know that my friendships could get deeper. I didn't know that I could cultivate friendships with complete strangers in a way that I had never done before. I had no idea that just telling the truth could make a man lose his shit and make you realize that maybe he's not the guy for me. I had no idea. All I knew to do was that revealing myself is the only thing that can happen here. And that will actually do the work for me. I don't need to strategize. I don't need to think about the plan. I can truly just be with what's real right now and trust that it'll all work out. But my body is going to lose its shit in the process. That's part of it. That's why inside Supple, the work that we do as practices aren't practices that add extra to your life. They're things that you're already doing that you can already do quite easily, but do them with more deliberacy. Eating food, taking a bath, stretching, going for a walk, enjoying yourself, enjoying life, because that's where the work happens. The work doesn't happen in a classroom. The work doesn't happen on a call. The work happens when you're in a conversation with your partner and you're like, fuck, I had to tell this person a desire and I'm terrified to do it. Or the work happens in the middle of a cafe when a baker looks at you and you actually just want to melt onto the floor. It happens in the real world moments. And that's going to tell you whether or not you're surrendered and open and receptive, or if you're closed off and shut down and totally in the mind about what you're allowed or not allowed to have. Inside Supple, I say I'm of service to the open because I don't know what the fuck is on the other side of what you do. I don't know what your life could look like if you were just more soft and graceful with the way that the world wants to operate. When you stop fighting what's in front of you and you just say, okay, I'm going to have it. I'm going to have the chaos and I'm going to have the love and I'm going to have this and I'm just going to receive what's actually here to be received, the good, bad, ugly, sad. Because if I receive that, what's on the other side? When I was moving to Montreal, every single day was a day of calibration. It was driving, filling up my gas tank, getting tired, realizing that I just wanted to go sit out in the sun because that's what my body needed. Then getting tired when I started driving again and realizing, you know what? I actually need a hotel. I'm not going to go sleep in a Walmart parking lot. And then being aware of all of my patterns, be like, this is too much money. We can sleep in a parking lot. It's fine. It's like, no, wait a minute. No, this is for me. I'm taking care of me. By the time I got to Montreal, there was a realization that my bed didn't make it in, that I would have to sleep on my dog's bed with her or on a yoga mat on the hard floor. Now you can fight life and be pissed off and be angry that that's what you've got, but you can also just be surrendered and receptive. Okay, my bed didn't come in. Why would I abuse my energy to be angry about it? I ended up having the most amazing sleep for my back, surprisingly. My bed came in 2 days later. Yet I know people who would be so righteously angry about those for like 3 days that they don't have a bed. But sometimes the chaos is something to receive too. Calibrating is the process of going from a closed state to receptive. This morning, I was aware that I needed to open. And in the process of doing it, I also had to learn to be receptive. Once I was open and receptive, because they're not quite the same things, then I could receive more. Then as I walked through, it was just easier to receive. So when you're in your life and you have to do something, tell someone the truth, be revealed, be vulnerable, be honest, be receptive, there are going to be places where you have to calibrate, where you have to pause and you have to take a breath and you have to slow down and you have to be present. But the more you do that, the easier it gets, moment to moment. Your body is not used to that state yet. My body's not used to this state yet. And yet I'm teaching it because even if you are open every single day, you will be opening to new experiences you've never had before. You'll be opening to a life that maybe you're about to upgrade into, or open into a conversation with someone brand new, or open to a new relationship in a new form. Life is always trying to give you something new that you've never had. So if you are not consistently practicing your capacity to be open and receptive and surrendered and soft, then you're going to lose the capacity to do that. Capacity is only ever grown or maintained. And if you're not actively growing or maintaining it, it begins to shrink. So I'm going to leave you guys there with this, but I want to remind you that on February 14th at 10 a.m. EST, I am doing a free transmission experience on Supple and the tenderness of opening, because in this process of calibrating, there is unearthing of so much emotion, so much tenderness inside of that we need to talk about it. So I invite you to go to my profile, sign up, RSVP, you can attend live. It's a Zoom call. So there's a Q&A session with me. It's not just like me talking at you, and you'll get the replay. And then if you feel called, you can sign up for Supple. The next round begins March 12th. And it's one of those programs where I just consistently reteach it. I'm learning deeper and deeper lessons when I'm out in life about what it means to be in love with your life, really. To fall in love with your own life is not a sensationless practice. It is deeply overwhelming, and it can take you out if you're not careful, and it can be absolutely destructive if you're not paying attention. So if this is something you desire to do, let me know. The spots are limited inside of Supple, so applications are open right away. So if you wanted to claim your spot, you can submit your application after you RSVP to the call on Tuesday. And I think that's about it. I'll talk to you later.